Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're counting down 10 of the worst title defences in recent history. Let's go. 10. Wolfsburg 2009-10. We start with Wolfsburg, who enjoyed their first and so far only Bundesliga title in the 2008-9 season, where their 69 points saw them pit Bayern Munich to the crown. They were led there by the management of Felix Magath, powered by the goals of Grafite and Edin Dzeko, scoring 54 of the club's 80 goals that campaign, and also had help from Zvezdan Misimovic, whose 20 assists was a league record. However, a title win was not enough to keep Magath around, as that summer he made the switch to 8th place Schalke, being replaced by Armin Veh, who himself managed a Bully-winning side in Stuttgart 2 years prior. However, he was sacked after just 19 league games after 7 matches without a win, with B-team manager Lorenz Gunter Kostner stepping up. Although no players of note left the Volkswagen Arena, Wolfsburg wouldn't hit the same heights, finishing 8th with 50 points, 19 points worse off and 5 off the European places. This was despite Dzeko notching another 29 league goals in 9-10, with the Wolves' highlight being a trip to the Europa League last 8, where they were defeated by eventual finalists Fulham. 9. Man United 2013-14. With the amount of league titles that Manchester United have, it was perhaps inevitable that on one occasion they'd experience a huge drop-off. But despite Sir Alex Ferguson retiring after his 13th Premier League triumph, nobody really expected the Red Devils to be quite as bad as they turned out to be the following season. After picking up 89 points in the 2012-13 campaign, Fergie handpicked Everton manager and fellow Scotsman David Moyes as his successor. But it didn't turn out as planned, with United losing 3 of their first 6 league games, as well as being knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup for just the 2nd time since 1984. Moyes seemed out of his depth, and ironically it was a 2-0 defeat at former club Everton that saw his era at Old Trafford end just 9 months into a 6-year deal, a result that ensured United would miss out on European football for the first time since 1990. Ryan Giggs would take over until the end of the season, as England's most successful domestic club would finish 7th with just 64 points, 25 worse off than the season before. 8. Blackburn 1995-96. The first side not named Manchester United to win the Premier League were Blackburn Rovers, with final day drama securing them the crown at the end of the 1994-95 season. Despite Alan Shearer's 34th goal of the campaign giving them the lead against Liverpool, they'd go on to lose 2-1, and it was only thanks to West Ham holding Man United to a draw that meant the 89 points that the Rovers picked up was enough. And in a theme that continues throughout this list, manager Kenny Dalglish left his role after his team won the title, moving upstairs as Ray Harford took over in the dugout. The former assistant won just 1 of his first 6 league games and suffered a group stage exit in the Champions League. It wasn't a wholly unsuccessful season, as although Blackburn never looked like retaining their crown, they were in contention for back-to-back European campaigns until the final day, where they'd finally finish in 7th with 61 points, 28 points worse off than a year earlier. Fans' misery was compounded that summer too, as 2-time Golden Boot winner Shearer was sold to Newcastle for a world record £15 million. 7. Real Madrid 1997-98. Despite being one of Spain's preeminent forces, with them and Barcelona having won 32 of the last 36 La Ligas, Real Madrid are not immune from an underwhelming title defence. In the 96-97 campaign, Los Blancos' 92 points was enough to edge out their El Clasico rivals for top spot, with the normally defensive Fabio Capello playing a front 3 of Raul, Predrag Mijatovic and Davor Šuker as a front 3, scoring 59 goals between them. But guess what? Capello left the club that summer to return to AC Milan, and Tenerife boss Jupp Heynckes took control at the Bernabeu. The 97-98 season started strongly for the German, as in mid-January they were just 1 point off Barca at the summit of La Liga. But at least domestically, it was all downhill from there. Madrid would win just 6 of their last 17 fixtures, finishing 4th, 14 points off the Blaugrana and 29 points worse off than the previous campaign. Raul, Mijatovic and Šuker could only muster 30 between them, and unsurprisingly Heynckes got the chop. It was far from a lost year for Real though. They ended a 32-year wait for their 7th Champions League trophy, beating Juventus 1-0 in the final. 6. Montpellier 2012-13. Montpellier's Ligue 1 title in the 2011-12 season is a modern-day David and Goliath story. Ahead of that campaign, Paris Saint-Germain had just been bought by Qatar Sports Investment, soon to begin their dominance of French football. But La Payade, who had an annual budget of just €35 million, delayed their rule for 12 months, stacking up 82 points for their debut crown, the second best total in French history at that point. Olivier Giroud led the line with 21 goals that campaign, but left for the Premier League that summer along with club captain Mapu Yanga Mbiwa. Without two of their most important players at either end of the pitch, combined with the first ever Champions League campaign, their form would suffer, losing more matches than they'd win in 2012-13. Not even appearing in the top half of Ligue 1 until the halfway stage, René Girard's side would win just 2 of their final 10 matches as they struggled to a 9th place finish, never in touch of a second successive European place. Their 52 points was 30 less than the prior campaign, and Girard would leave for pastures new at the end of the season. 5. Milan, 1996-97. Back to the 90s when AC Milan were very much the team to beat in Serie A. Despite never being the highest scorers, they scored just 36 goals as they won the league in 1994. The Rossoneri would win 4 of the 5 Scudetti between 1992 and 1996. And in 96, they'd amassed 73 points, a record for an Italian champion. A team full of stars featuring the likes of Paolo Maldini, Franco Baresi, George Weah and Marcel Desailly, Milan were expected to retain their title in the 96-97 campaign, despite the fact that Fabio Capello had left for Real Madrid over the summer. They won 3 of their first 4 matches to start the season, before Oscar Tabarete's reign went sideways. The Uruguayan was sacked following a 3-2 defeat to Piacenza that left Milan in the relegation spot, being replaced by returning manager Arrigo Sacchi. However, he couldn't save their campaign, with the legendary coach seeing his side fall 6-1 to rivals Juventus, as Milan ultimately wound up in 11th spot with 43 points, finishing with a negative goal difference for just the 3rd time in their history. 4. Ajax, 1998-99. In the late 1990s, Ajax were approaching the end of one of their most famous eras, having reached consecutive Champions League finals, winning it in 95. They had also won 4 of 5 Eredivisie titles, with their 1998 triumph the most dominant, winning 29 out of 34 matches and finishing on 89 points, 17 ahead of closest rivals PSV. But controversy struck at the start of the following season, as both Frank and Ronald de Boer signed 6-year deals with the Amsterdam club, only to take legal action to have them voided, paving the way for moves to Barcelona halfway through the campaign. This left Edwin van der Sar, Danny Blind and Jari Litmanen as the only remaining members from the UCL win less than 4 years earlier. Bringing through a new generation that featured the likes of Benny McCarthy and Mario Melchiot, coach Martin Olsen was sacked in December despite sitting in 3rd spot. New boss Peter Wouters didn't fare much better, with Ajax winning just 7 games of 15 after Christmas. With their total points haul of 57, a massive 32 worse than the year before. They finished in 6th place. 3. Leicester, 2016-17. Now to the fairy tale story that was Leicester City winning the Premier League title back in 2016. Having barely escaped relegation the season prior, the Foxes would rack up 81 points, 10 more than closest rivals Arsenal. Claudio Ranieri became a legend in the East Midlands, along with the likes of Jamie Vardy, Riyad Mahrez and Kasper Schmeichel. Fans were hardly expecting Leicester to become regular title challengers, but the extent to which they dropped off the following campaign was substantial. They won just 5 matches in the first half of the season, and by the time March rolled around, Ranieri had been sacked and the champions were in 17th, 2 points ahead of bottom side Sunderland. Relegation was on the cards. Fortunately, a 5-game winning streak under Craig Shakespeare saw them rise back to the top half. However, an indifferent final stretch saw them round out in 12th with 44 points, down 37 on their historic year, as well as seeing their goal difference drop from plus 32 to 15. Leicester fans weren't too upset though, as they also managed a trip to the UCL quarter-finals that same season. 2. Liverpool 2020-21. After bagging themselves 196 points and losing just 4 games across 2 Premier League seasons on the way to their first top-flight title in 30 years, it was unlikely that Liverpool could keep up their incredible run of form into the 2021 campaign. Then, with the added effect of a busier schedule in the midst of a pandemic, it was almost inevitable. What's more, 17 different players have missed matches to injury, with defenders Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez and Joel Matip all ruled out to the end of the season. Jurgen Klopp has named 18 different defensive partnerships so far, as well as having 3 different goalkeepers start matches this season, all contributing to what looks set to be the worst title defence in Premier League history. At this time last season, the Reds had only dropped 2 points all campaign, winning 25 of their 26 league matches and notching up 73 points. This time around though, they've won just 12 matches and have 43 points, sitting outside the Champions League spots at the time of writing. Sure, they have had their reasons for being off the pace, but it doesn't make that drop off any smaller. 1. Chelsea 2015-16. The year before Leicester won their famous title, Chelsea became Premier League champions for a fourth time, and for the first time since Jose Mourinho returned to Stamford Bridge. The Blues held top spot for 274 days in 2014-15, a Premier League record at the time, as they picked up 87 points. It seemed like the glory days of a decade earlier had returned to West London. But the 15-16 campaign didn't start as planned. Mourinho was involved in a high-profile spat with team doctor Eva Carneiro, an incident that would cause her to leave her role. And the manager didn't fare much better. After winning just 4 of the first 16 league games, he was sacked as the club hovered just a point above the relegation zone in 16th. Fortunately for Blues fans, Gus Hiddink came in and steered the wayward ship to safety, opening up his second spell in charge with a 15-game unbeaten run, at one point hitting the heady heights of 8th in the Premier League, before ultimately finishing in 10th with 50 points, 37 worse than the season before. It's not all bad though. Antonio Conte took charge that summer and immediately won them another title. So those were our 10 worst title defences, but have you got any shouts of your own? Let us know in the comments below, and if there are enough, we might do a part 2. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like, subscribe to Football Daily, and why not click on screen right now for another great FD vid. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.